Welcome to Entanglement Radio, transcendent talk for the conscious mind. Join us for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science, new thought, and conscious healing. Explore the potential and infinite possibilities of what it means to be human with some of the best guests in radio. At Entanglement Radio, it is all connected. Now, here is your host, Angela Levesque, on the OMTimes Radio Network.
Welcome and good day. You're listening to Entanglement Radio. I am your host, Angela Levesque, and I'm coming to you live this beautiful morning from the foothills in Boise, Idaho. I can just tell you that I am so thrilled to be here on the maiden voyage of Entanglement Radio with my dear friend, colleague, previous co-host. She's so many wonderful things to me, the lovely Kimberly Truitt. And we are talking about passion and purpose and really how to create New Year's intentions that really stick. So I think it's a great show to kick off the new year. Some of you might have already created some New Year's resolutions for yourself that you haven't stuck to. And we're going to talk about the difference between intentions and revolutions. And yes, so I think that is just a perfect way to start off the year. And to be honest, I think we have the opportunity to change in any moment. But I know that there is this sort of cultural push at this time to turn over that new leaf. So I think this is a great opportunity to have this conversation. Next week, I will have Dr. Tammy Balacheski on the program, and she is the author of Manifesting Love from the Inside Out, as well as Manifesting Prosperity from the Inside Out. And we are going to be talking about prosperity, which again, I think is another great topic for the beginning of the new year, and also my personal intention for 2015, as we'll talk about a little bit later. If you need to get a hold of me at any time during the week, you can email me at angela@hestiahealth.com. You can find me on Facebook and on Twitter at hestiahealth.com. And I would love to connect with you. And really, that is what Entanglement Radio is all about. It is that place where everything is connected. So with that, I am excited to introduce my guest. Kimberly Truitt is a spiritual, intuitive, and life strategy coach. Her mission is to inspire and empower you to fall deeply, madly, and passionately in love with your life. Doesn't that sound good? And be the happiest person you know. Becoming joyfully you. Kimberly is a Live Happy ambassador, healer, spiritual teacher, and certified dream coach. So with that, I feel very honored and blessed to welcome Kimberly to the program. Kimberly, how are you doing?
Hi, Angela. I am so thrilled to be on your program with you. I'm very excited to be welcoming in the new year with you and to be a part of your new program. My heart is just wide open and I'm smiling from ear to ear. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited. You and I always have so much fun on the radio together. So when I thought about my very first show, I couldn't think of anyone better than to have you on. So all right. As I said a little bit in my intro, there are probably people who have already broken their New Year's resolutions, which is why you and I both know that they don't work. So let's talk a little bit about the problems with creating New Year's resolutions. Let's start with that.
Well, the thing is, Angus, is that our society has us running and racing to the finish line. And most of the time, our resolutions are coming from a very ego-driven place. And that's one of the reasons that they don't work. They're uninspired. They are all things that you think you're supposed to be doing. And we do this because our society has taught us to be in that habitual pattern of living from the ego. It's all of the shoulds that we think that we're supposed to do, as opposed to really asking that question of what matters to me most. And I know that you and I have talked about this statistic, and that sadly only 8% of those who set New Year's resolutions, as opposed to intentions, see them through to the end of the year.
You know, you and I were talking about that statistic the other day, and I honestly thought that was a little bit high. I don't know, maybe I'm a cynic, I'm not sure. But, when you started telling me the 8% number, right off in my head, I'm thinking, oh, after 3 months or after 6 months, but 8% after a year. Like I said, I don't know, maybe I'm a glass is half empty kind of person, which I don't think that I am, but that seemed kind of high.
Well, I personally thought that it seemed kind of low, just from the standpoint of, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, is it's become really a tradition that we have here in the West to set New Year's resolutions. And the thing is that our New Year's resolutions, as opposed to soul intentions, are, like I said, ego based. We're very in our head, and we're often coming from a place of lack or fear, that concept of not being good enough. And it's a result of having some dissatisfaction with an area of our life. And the thing that I want people to know is that, stop setting yourself up to fail. I mean, really, what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and having the same result. And it's like, I don't understand why we continue to do that. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this topic and discussing, what are our resolutions versus intentions. And so one of the things that I'll share immediately is that one of the ways that you're setting a resolution as opposed to an intention is that body feels contracted. And oftentimes there's a sense of anxiety and overwhelm that comes when we set a New Year's resolution and we're a week into it, and then we're losing steam. We tend to be very destination focused in our resolutions. And oftentimes it creates a lot of struggle, and there's a lot of efforting for us to see our resolutions through. And it's almost as though you're swimming upstream. And as I said before, it's very task focused, and you're really just kind of going through the motions. It's not about an experience that you are having a desire to have. You're really focused on that end result.
One thing I want to mention, and I was actually having a conversation with my class that I teach in mind body awareness, and we were talking about, it comes from this, because we live our lives different over the holidays. There's more parties, there's more visiting. Lots of times we have guests in our house. We eat differently. There's sweets and stuff. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. But so instead of coming from a place and just appreciating that time in the season, knowing that you don't do that the whole year, we come from a place like, oh crap, I just totally went off the rails. I just, completely fell off the wagon, whatever saying you want to use. And so you start, okay, I have to get my life back in order, instead of saying, okay, that was great. I really enjoyed that opportunity to be with my family and have the rum and eggnog and consume way more calories than I'm used to. And I really loved that. But I know going forward that doesn't nourish me, in my daily life when I don't have all the visitors and the guests and all of that. So instead, we move from this place like, okay, I have to get back on track. And I think that's where that fear and contraction and that idea that we need to, produce this result in order to feel like we're back on life, instead of just looking at it like, oh, that was good. And now what's next?
Well, exactly. I feel like what you just said, Ange, really epitomizes the all or nothing mentality that we tend to have. And I can say that with confidence, of having my own experience of that. I'm a recovering perfectionist where it was either all or nothing. So I was all in or I was all out. And unfortunately, what that creates is we're setting ourselves up to fail, because there is absolutely no possible way that we can live that kind of a narrow line. It does not lend for life. And the fact of the matter is that there are many things about life that is unpredictable. And so you're right. I do understand where that concept comes from. And my New Year's soul intention is self-love. So what I would like to do is invite people to be a little bit more self-loving and setting themselves up for success by setting New Year's intentions that are coming from a place that is deeper within you. It's a part of a heart-centered place as opposed to a head-centered place.
Well, I'm just going to share my New Year's intention is prosperity. And so I want to talk more about that. We have just like about a minute and a half before the break. Let's just talk briefly in general. What's an intention?
Well, an intention is something that inspires you and it aligns you with who you are uniquely designed to be. And and I'm speaking about a soul intention. And the realm of the soul is the realm of love and expansion. And it's the realm of infinite possibilities, which is one of my absolute favorite things. And what happens is that when you are connected with that soul realm of intention, it puts you in the flow of universal energy and it opens you to a greater force that actually allows things to happen for you with ease and grace. It's not something that you have to effort. It's not something that you have to push for. It's not something you have to control or manipulate. It unfolds beautifully and in miraculous ways.
Well, I absolutely love that. And we are coming up on a break here pretty quick. When we get back, I want to talk about more in-depthly about soul intentions. And then what I really am trying to do on this program is talk about these, how we connect to spirit and then how we take these connections and we bring it on down into our lives. So actually the last segment of this show is going to be Bite-Sized Brilliance, where it is all about that, giving tools and tips where we can take these high-level concepts, like we can talk about intentions, but what are some of the step-by-step things that we need to do in order to bring that into our daily life. So that will be the last segment. But coming up next, we're really going to dive deep. We're going to talk about examples on how to create our own intention. So we are here with the lovely Kimberly Truitt. If you want to check out our website, it's kimberlytruitt.com, and we will be back here on Entanglement Radio in just a minute.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM.
The Laying On of Hands Healing Radio Show is about treating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. Join me, Charles Smith, as I share life-balancing measures such as nutrition and spiritual practices to help you take charge of your own health and wellness every Thursday at 7 p.m. on OMTimes Radio.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi, my name is Monica and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love, and peace together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
The future of internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM.
All right, we are back, and you're listening to Entanglement Radio right here on IOM FM. I am your host again, Angela Levesque, and we are here with spiritual, intuitive, and life strategy coach, Kimberly Truitt, talking all about creating intentions, the difference between resolutions and intentions, and how to really connect with our soul and spirit when we do set those intentions for our life in general and this year of 2015. So, Kimberly, before the break, we had just sort of got into soul intentions and the difference between a soul intention and a resolution. And I know lots of people will, like you said, have a very task-oriented resolution. For example, like I want to lose 10 pounds so I can wear my skinny jeans. And tell us how we would create an intention that is different from that sort of, I want to fit into my, my little black dress.
I love that you asked that question because this is so perfect in illustrating the difference of the resolution versus the intention. And it's just an ever so slight shift. So somebody who had an intention of, I want to lose 10 pounds so that I can fit into my skinny jeans, which is very ego-based. Ego is something that really cares about particular life circumstances and, the acceptance and approval and admiration and respect of other people. And yet our soul doesn't care about that. So a soul intention, to take that same resolution and turn it into a soul intention, would be something along the lines of, I would like to feel healthy, happy, and fit that radiates the light and the energy that I feel inside. That is that creates a sense of emotion. It connects you with that true and authentic self that came into this world, and it's an intention that will allow you to sustain through the year. Intentions actually create experience. And so what I like to share with people is ask the question, what do you want to experience in your life? How do you want to live? Because here's the secret to our lives, Ange. Our life's journey is the destination. Our life's journey is the destination, and we are living in a society that's running and racing to the finish line, but there's no destination to get to. There's no destination to get to. So the question really comes around to asking yourself, how do you want to live? What do you want to experience? Who do you have a desire to be? So when you're creating intentions, create intentions that have you saying yes to your life.
It's interesting that you talk about the experience. So my background in exercise physiology, and everything that I was taught, you talked about goal setting, smart, specific, actionable, reasonable, and timely. And so they were very task oriented. It was all about, okay, I want to lose 10 pounds in this amount of time. And it's interesting though, as I actually had just taught a class on intentions, that in my research, I found that they're starting to change the way that they're doing the research. So instead of what they realized, so I'm going to tell you about the specific study I was reading. So they had college students running on a treadmill. So they had one group where it was a very outcome-driven task, run on the treadmill for 30 minutes. The other group, they had people focus on the experience. So how did your body feel while you were running on the treadmill? Did you follow your breath? Where were you breathing into? How did the feet feel as it moved on the treadmill? And what they found is that the group who focused on the experience versus the group that just said, okay, here's your goal, run for 30 minutes, ended up running for longer, because it wasn't just about reaching that final destination. It was about having that experience. And when we talk about mind-body awareness and meditation and living mindfully, that's what it is. It's about creating that experience, creating that moment. Do you want to run through time, or do you want to create a moment?
I love that, and it reminds me of an experience that I had many, many years ago when I was still working for corporate America. And I was living out in the suburbs of Seattle, and my job was in downtown Seattle. And I, like many, was finding it very difficult to fit into my schedule any activity that allowed my body to move. And so essentially what I eventually ended up doing is I would ride my bike from my house down to the train station. And then from the train station, instead of getting on the bus and taking it into downtown, I would walk to my office building. And then I decided to up the ante. I worked in this beautiful, historic old building, and my office was on the 14th floor. And of course, it was very easy to just get in the elevator and take the elevator to the 14th floor. That's what they designed elevators for, right? Well, of course, I'm in this space of how can I get more activity into my life, because I worked a very sedentary job. And I decided that I was going to start climbing the stairs. Well, you could imagine by the time I'd get to the third floor, I was so out of breath. And I was just like, oh my God, how am I ever going to make it to the 14th floor? And all of a sudden, in asking that question, which is something I want to come back to, the power of asking question, I heard my own inner voice say to me, can you feel your heart beating? And it was in that moment that I had a shift from being task oriented, that I was going to climb the stairs for the sake of getting activity into my job, into being in my body and realizing that my heart beats faithfully for me every second of every day. And how often do I actually feel my heart beating? And what happened was exactly what you just said in the study. I that first day made it to the 7th floor. And then the next day I made it to the 9th floor. And before the week's end, I was making it to the 14th floor. And because I had this appreciation of feeling my heart beating and how significant that was for me, because all day long I would sit at my desk, or I would get up and go to the copier, or whatever it was that I was doing, and I couldn't feel my heart beating. And so the focus became on loving my heart and being appreciative of my heart and exercising that muscle.
I love it. And of course, you're bringing in gratitude, and the energy is so, and I want to talk about that for a minute. The energy is so different from, I'm going to, incorporate more exercise and get to that, the top of that staircase versus, oh my goodness, what a beautiful experience. That is the connection to source. There's a complete difference in energy. And when we talk about, the law of vibration and the law of attraction and all of that, that's really the difference, right? Between a resolution and an intention.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Do you want to explain that a little bit more? Because you're so good at it.
I would love to explain that a little bit more. So again, the soul-based intention is we're actually in our hearts, and we're looking to create an experience in our lives. And really, that's what our life is all about, is what are the experiences that you have a desire to create. And imagine getting out of bed every single morning and saying, surprise me. I wonder what the day will bring as I'm living my soul's intention. And when you're living from that place of soul intention, what happens is that that's exactly it, where you become focused on the experience. You become focused on living, as opposed to it just being another quote unquote to do on your to-do list. And the other reason that this is so significant is that whether you're setting intentions or you're setting resolutions, the one thing that I promise you that will happen is that you will bump up against anything and everything in your life, your attitudes, your beliefs, relationships, life circumstances that are not in alignment with that resolution or that intention. And so when you're coming from a ego-based resolution, you do not have the willpower to sustain those roadblocks, those potholes in the road, those difficult times. But when you are coming from a place of a soul intention that has come from your heart, and you are experiencing your life as opposed to getting by, you will run into those roadblocks, and you'll immediately look at it and go, well, this is really interesting. And you'll look for a way around it. You'll hit the pothole, and you'll get up and you'll shake it off and go, I didn't even realize that was there. Okay, where am I going? So there's a very different energy that we're connecting with. You're connecting with that infinite possibility where the universe conspires in your favor.
It's interesting. Another one of the things, studies that I came into when I was looking into this, is that so they looked at people and flossing, and so what they found is that to get people flossing, originally having them say it'll prevent tooth decay is what got them started into flossing. But what they found, again, they had a group who was just flossing just to prevent tooth decay. And then there was a group who focused on that experience of how their teeth felt clean and how they knew that they were promoting this healthy, wonderfully fresh mouth that was, instead of looking at it as it was preventing something, which initially, like I said, was interesting, it got them interested in flossing. But what kept them flossing was focusing on the experience. They were promoting something versus preventing something. And the energy, and I know there's a lot of like-minded, energetically inclined people who will listen to this show. The energy is different coming from a place, I'm going to prevent this, or, the same thing as the resolution versus I'm here and I'm promoting my, healthy, happy, radiant being.
Well, exactly. And that reminds me, Ange, of the concept that it's always easier to move towards something than it is to move away from something. So if I'm flossing for the sake of keeping myself from getting cavities and for keeping my mouth healthy, that it's a very, like you said, it's a very different energy. It doesn't inspire you. And, one of the things that we've talked about on previous shows that we've done, that the word inspiration really means in spirit. And so when you're in spirit, again, you have that experience of people, situations, and circumstances showing up that support you, that continue to move you forward. And with that, you have miracles that show up again and again and again.
Well, I so enjoy talking to you. We are almost up here on a break. When we get back, I want to discuss with you the difference between ego versus soul values, which is, I think, a really big topic. And I think it just really, because you hear a lot in the conscious community about the ego and, moving from the place of ego. And I think it would be a really good idea to get very clear on the difference. So again, we're here with Kimberly Truitt. If you want to check out her website, it's kimberlytruitt.com. And we'll be back here on Entanglement Radio in just a minute.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
All right, we are back and you're listening to Entanglement Radio right here on iom.fm. I am your host, Angela Levesque, and I am super excited to be speaking with spiritual intuitive and life strategy coach, Kimberly Truitt. And we are talking all about intentions for 2015. So Kimberly, before the break, I really wanted us to get very clear, because like I said, in the conscious community, we talk about, moving from the place of ego, and I want to get clear on what's the difference between an ego versus a soul value. How do you know what the difference is?
Okay, so the ego values, I love talking about this, and I feel like I need to preface this in saying the ego could sound like I'm giving it a bad rap, and the ego really does serve us in many, many ways. So let me preface by saying I am not bashing our ego. All I'm saying here is that when it comes from who's in the driver's seat, the ego actually needs to be in the back seat and your soul needs to be in the driver's seat. So with that said, our ego values are really all about avoiding fear and pain and struggle. Our ego tends to want to control and manipulate things for our own benefit. It also cares very much about particular life circumstances like owning a home or driving a fast car or living in a specific place. In addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, our egos really care about the acceptance, the approval, the admiration, and the respect of other people. And oftentimes, and this is the times when it's a problem, it cares about that at our own expense, at throwing ourselves under the bus. And then it also likes to divide life experiences into good and bad and like and don't like. A soul value, however, is much more concerned about who you are being as opposed to what you are quote unquote doing. It sees your life beyond a single lifetime for those who believe in reincarnation, as you know I do. It has absolutely, here's the part that I really laugh about, the soul has absolutely no preference as to how the ego is experiencing your life, which is quite funny, and yet at the same time very purposeful, right? Like if the soul cared about what the ego cared about, then we'd just be right back there in the ego value. And it tends to see people's lives as a beautiful work of art, and all of your experiences are here to help you continue to evolve and expand as a soul.
As I'm hearing you say this, and as somebody who teaches mind-body awareness, I'm hearing the ego values, and to me, that seems to directly parallel when we talk about the mind and how the mind operates. And I'm talking from a neuroscience perspective, is that when something happens to you, your mind will go through this file folder in your subconscious and say, is this something we desire? Does this bring us towards pleasure, or does this bring us towards pain? And it's interesting because I don't think I've heard you explain this before, but I never really made that connection before, that is exactly how we deal with things unless we start to be very conscious. And how do we be conscious? We have to bring ourselves into the present moment. It's a present moment experience. And so I just love that I'm like making all of these little connections in my brain. But one thing I also want to say is that I love that you said lots of times the ego gets a bad rap, but I love that you said it's not a bad thing. We just have to realize its limitations.
Well, exactly. And I want to go back to what you were just saying about the way that the ego perceives things in the good or the bad. And one of the topics that you and I have talked about is that, life is really unfolding for for our best and highest good. And so even those things that our ego likes to label as being a bad experience, one of the most transformational things that anyone could do in their lifetime is to ask the question, or perceive it from a place of listen to what love has to say about this situation. Because as I mentioned earlier in the program, whether you're setting a resolution or a soul intention, you have activated anything and everything that is not in alignment with that soul intention or that resolution. And so it's going to come up as a way of you being aware of it, so that you can acknowledge it. And then you can ask yourself, is this serving my best and my highest good? And oftentimes when we experience it in a painful manner, the answer to that is no. I have an attitude or a belief that is creating this pain. As opposed to, if you can release that and you can see the good that comes from that, there is something bigger and better for you on the other side of it.
Love it. I love it. So earlier in the show, you alluded to some questions that we should ask ourselves to open ourselves up to the field of infinite possibilities, which I just got to pause for a minute. I just love thinking about that there is this, we are all energetically connected to this beautiful field of just potential and possibility. To me, that is just so exciting.
Well, first, what I would like to suggest to people is before you start asking the questions, because again, we really live our life from that place of the ego. So one of the first things that you need to do is you need to get out of your head and you need to get into your heart before you start asking questions, because the quality of the answer is going to be in direct proportion to the quality of the questions. And where you're coming from when you're asking those questions. So one of the best things that you can do to activate the energy of your higher self is, what we're going to do is we want to raise our vibrational frequency. And so one of the many ways that you could do that is music. Music is the fastest thing that you can listen to, that will shift your vibrational frequency and raise it. Being in nature. Here's one of my favorite, dance. So put your favorite song on and move your body. Get into your body, feel your heart. And so some of the questions are, what would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? I actually have a paperweight that the boss that I had at that architectural firm that I was working at, that was on the 14th floor, that he gave me as a gift, that says, what would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? And I remember the moment that he gave me that gift, I had tears well up in my eyes and streaming down my face. And I immediately knew that I was not meant to work at that architectural firm for the rest of my life, and that I was meant to do what I'm doing right here, right now.
I wonder if that was his intended purpose. Probably not.
Well, here's what I will tell you, and this is the thing that I love about him. I'm giving a shout out to Joe Chauncey, if you're listening to this program, is that he did know. And that was one of the things that I loved and adored about him, is that he loved me enough and appreciated me enough that as much as he did not want me to leave that firm, he knew what my sole intention was, and it was not to be working at an architectural firm. So I think that gift was very purposeful, and that was more than 10 years ago that I received that. So anyway, another one would be, what do you love to do where all time disappears? Like an hour literally feels like minutes. Another one is, if time and money and what everyone else in your life wanted was not a factor, what would you want? Or here's another one that's my favorite, because it really gets those creative juices flowing. If you no longer had to work, what would you do for free?
I like that. And you know what? I would be doing what I'm doing. So
would I.
That's very affirming.
It's very affirming. It's very affirming. And the thing is that when we're coming from that ego doing place, doing is separate from from that place is separate from who we truly are. There's an actual disconnect. However, when we are coming from that place of our heart, from that place of our soul, it's our choices and our decisions are operating from who we want to be. And then what happens is the doing creates an energy and a synergy, and the experience is what creates those feelings that we actually desire, right? So it's the being love, be in joy, be in health. It's a very different, completely different energy.
So I have a question, because there might be people out there listening, and we have a few minutes here before the break that say, you know what, this all sounds great, but I still need to keep my job because I need to put food on the table. How do we move out of that place?
Absolutely. Well, so the first thing that comes to mind is, remember me telling the story about why it was that I originally decided that I was going to climb those 14 flights of stairs to get to the 14th floor. I was doing it from the place of, I need to move my body. I need to be healthy. I understand people need to go to their job, and they need to be able to make the money in order to keep the roof over their head and food in their stomach and clothes on their back. So the first question would be, is connecting at a much deeper level to what does that job provide for you? And when you can come from that place, it will absolutely shift you from going to a job that maybe is dissatisfying or one that you really don't like, to having a sense of gratitude and appreciation for the fact that you are employed. And by being employed, it allows you to purchase the food that creates that vibrant, healthy energy. It allows you to wear clothing that gives you an opportunity to express who you have a desire to be and put forth to the world. And then the other thing that I would suggest is, then it's super important that you take the time to do the very self-loving act of engaging in hobbies and activities that nurture your soul. So for me, that is, being in the foothills of the mountains, or being on the ski hill, or going to a dance or a yoga class, or going to happy hour with my girlfriends and having engaging conversation. So those would be the two suggestions that I would make for people who find themselves there. And if you're in a situation like I was, what I'll share is that I didn't love that architectural job. And I finally had the courage to step into doing the work that I loved. And I created, this is where creating a plan is very beneficial. I went and I got the training that I needed. And then on nights and weekends, I coached. And I did that for 6 months. And after 6 months, I had created enough of a clientele.
I'm going to have to stop you there. We will pick that up after the break. We're here with Kimberly Truitt on Entanglement Radio. We'll be right back.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Join Elliot Jolish, The Business Therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jolish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jolish Hour. The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
All right, we are back here on Entanglement Radio, right here on IOM FM, and I am your host, Angela Levesque, and my guest today is Kimberly Truitt, and we are just finishing up here with a segment I like to call Bite-Sized Brilliance. So we are bringing it on home here for you on the show, and this segment is brought to you by Hestia Health, specializing in mind-body awareness and energy healing. HestiaHealth.com, calm mind, open heart, aware life. So Kimberly, right before the break, and I think this is a really good point to help, bring it on home, is that no matter what you're doing, if you can keep your eye on the intention, you can create that experience in whether it's that job that you don't really like or, isn't the most fulfilling, or maybe it's waiting in the doctor's office or whatever it is, you can find a way, whether it's shifting your experience, shifting your heart, opening your heart, to have that experience of your intention in whatever life throws at you.
Yes, absolutely. And, the one of the things that I want to bring home and remind people of how incredibly powerful your soul intentions are. And I had mentioned earlier in the program that the universe will conspire for you. And so to bring us into that whole bite-sized brilliance and the how-tos, I want to finish this story of me stepping into doing my work as a way of illustrating how it is that the universe conspires for you when you are coming from that heart-based space. So I had created that clientele that allowed me to go part-time at 6 months in. And here's what's crazy, Angela, is that the position that I held at that architectural firm was not a part-time job. I did everything that it took to run that business except for architecture and design. And when I went to that boss, to Joe Chauncey, who gave me that beautiful quote, and I said to him, this is what I would like to do. You know what he did? He said, Kimberly, we will make it work. And for 6 months, he took my responsibilities that I could not do part-time, and he dispersed them throughout the staff. Now that's just unheard of, right? Had somebody said to me, oh, go to your boss and have the architects take on your operational duties, I would have laughed and said, there's no way. And so the point is that as long as you're taking steps and you're moving in the direction of what matters to you most and living the life that you desire, that the universe, people, situations, and circumstances will show up to support you.
I love that. Well, let's talk about a couple more tools and tips that people can use to help them create their intention.
Okay, perfect. So as I had mentioned before, you want to first activate that energy of your higher self before you set your intentions. And then what I want you to do is set yourself up for success. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint. So in other words, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, enjoy the unfoldment of becoming and living the intention. This is the expanded version of yourself. Then what you're going to do is once you get very clear on that soul intention, you're going to write it down. And this is really important. You need to write it down from the voice of the soul. So in other words, it's going to be worded very positive. It's going to speak in the present moment using the I am statements. So I am self-love. I am prosperity. And then here's what's really important. You have to give it your focused attention daily. See it, feel it, move towards it in some small way every single day. And one of the things that I do that has really been beneficial for me is having some sort of a touchstone. So I actually have a bracelet that I wear every day that's in the shape of a heart. And it's a way of reminding me to come from a place of self-love. The other suggestion that I would make is get a soul partner, someone who's going to be there to cheer you on and hold you accountable, and someone who's going to be your sounding board. Because like I mentioned before, you need to be prepared for those hurdles and those roadblocks, for those zigzags. Every intention activates the larger energetic field. So know that you have called forward every attitude, belief, or relationship or circumstance that stands between where you are and what your soul intention is. And then the last thing that I would suggest is you need to celebrate your successes along the way. This will keep you inspired. It is so easy for us to forget how far we have come. So remember, if you can embrace and be excited about the journey and see it as a journey versus a destination, this is what's going to sustain you in the long run.
A couple of the things I just want to reiterate is really, like you said, you can't just write your intention down and then put it in a drawer and then never think about it, because everything is energy. So you need to put your energy to it. And that's why, going back to what I said right at the beginning of this segment, is that how do you have the experience? The more you can have that experience of your intention, especially when life throws you curveballs, that's where you continually, it's kind of like you're feeding it. And you're creating that energetic alignment. And that's how you create things in your life. So don't just write it down and then put it in a drawer, because that's not going to work.
Well, exactly. And how much time do we have, Ange? I don't want to run us out of time.
I think we've got another minute or two.
Okay. So one of the things that I want to share along those lines of, you're going to run into those bumps and those hurdles, and you want to experience your life, is fear is something that will attempt to rob you of your heart's desire every time. So one of the other things that I would like to share with people is doubt your doubts. Doubt your doubts. Fear does not live in the present moment. Fear is a result of a past experience or a projection into the future. So this is where having that soul partner really serves you, is that when you have a doubt come up, doubt that doubt, pick up the phone, schedule coffee, and connect with your soul partner, because they're going to help remind you of why you went down this road. It's going to give you a sounding board to let out all of your fear. And I actually have a really fun exercise that I learned from Sonia Choquette on when you're in fear. One of the things that you can do is name out loud what it is that you're afraid of. So I would say, I am afraid of failure. And then the next thing you do, remember, fear does not live in the present moment. So now what you do is you look out the window and you say, I see a tree. I see a person walking by. I see a dog across the street. All of that brings you back into the present moment. And what you'll notice is the fear dissipates.
I mean, that makes just so much sense. Again, from a neuroscience perspective, is that we know that pain and so much of our stress is created from living in the past or worrying about something that may or may not happen in the future. And that's a great idea, saying, this is what I see right here, right now, because it does anchor your attention. Another thing that I always suggest to my clients is focusing in on the heart center, breathing in and out of the heart, and imagining like bringing your energy back into your heart center. And that is a really useful tip, because what it does is, instead of sending out all of these kind of like tendrils of our energy into thinking about what might happen, what happened last week, worrying about somebody didn't send you an email, are you going to sell your house this week, all of that stuff, you're sending out little like feelers of energy, and that takes away from your center. So bringing yourself back to the present moment, focusing in on the heart, breathing in and out of the heart, and drawing all your energy back into your heart space. And that really helps you anchor yourself in the present moment. And it also relaxes the body and activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is wonderful. And so I think those are all great. And one thing that I know you really are a huge proponent of, is being playful.
I love that you brought that up because I was like, I've got to tell people and give them permission. Play, play, play. When you are playing, when you allow yourself to be in your joy, you're connected to your most true and authentic self, and you're in your heart. You cannot be in your joy and not be connected to that part of you. And that's one of the things that I feel like we have been robbed by our society and we've bought off on. People, you need to get out there and you need to play. Schedule it into your calendar if you need to. Play, play, play.
I know, because if you watch children, right? Children are always in the moment. They're not worried about, oh, I wonder if so-and-so is going to play with me 10 days from now. They are just right there. They're involved. They're engaged. They're being present and they're enjoying themselves. And yes, we are so used to, having that cup of coffee in the morning. And instead of enjoying that cup of coffee, we're thinking about, okay, what do I have to get done today? What do I have to do? Okay, I have to go here. I have to go there. And that is moving through time versus creating that moment. And that not only is amazing for your health, but for your happiness, for your relationships, for your sanity.
And it connects you to your higher self. That's the other thing, is when we're playing and we are in the moment, you are connecting to that infinite possibility of all that exists and that higher self, that intuitive self that has all of your answers.
Well, we just have a couple minutes left here. So I want to give you plenty of opportunity. I'm serious. If you're listening to this show, work with this lady. It will change your life. So I want to give you the opportunity to share websites, social media, anything else you'd like my listeners to leave with.
Oh, thank you, Ange. I love that. Well, I have created a method called Be Joyfully You, and it's all about how you can step into being fully the individual that you came here to be, moving away from that surviving and getting by and the struggle mentality into that part of you that says yes to the world when you wake up. So please visit me at my website at KimberlyTruitt.com. I am working with individuals right now through the month of February, believe it or not, on honing in on their soul's intentions and then putting them in that energetic space that allows them to connect with their own intuition and creating a life plan for the year.
Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for being on the show. Coming up next week, we have Dr. Tammy Balicheski, and we are going to be talking about manifesting prosperity from the inside out. You can get a hold of me at angela@hestiahealth.com and visit my website at hestiahealth.com. This is Angela Levesque wishing you love and light. See you next week.